So what happens when a local business, one that's been trusted for decades, loses its main product literally overnight? Well, that's exactly the story of Polka Dot Dairy. It's a company that stared down a total supply chain collapse, and in the process had to figure out what it was really selling all along. And here's a spoiler. It wasn't milk.
You're a hero if you just show up. This quote from co-owner Joe Pettit, it's really the key to this whole thing. In a world of chaos, broken supply chains, and just plain unreliable service, Polka Dot Dairy basically bet the farm on one simple idea: dependability. Just showing up. That became their superpower.
All right, so first, let's get a handle on who Polka Dot Dairy actually is. They've been around since 1956, a real fixture in Hastings, Minnesota. Their business is that unglamorous but absolutely vital work of distribution, making sure local store shelves are stocked, day in, day out. It's the kind of work you don't notice until it's not done, and it's built on trust earned in those early morning hours.
And their model isn't just dropping a pallet on the curb and leaving. Nope. They use what's called direct store delivery, which means their drivers are the face of the company. They're right there in the stores, rotating products, checking inventory, even helping with orders. And get this, if a driver messes up, they guarantee a special delivery to make it right. That's not just service, folks. That's accountability.
And this really gets to the heart of their value. In today's world, with all its fragile supply chains and spotty service, the simple act of showing up and doing the job right, consistently, well, that's become a legitimate superpower. This foundation of just being dependable was pretty much the only thing they had to lean on when everything went sideways.
And then 2023 happened. And to really get the crisis, you have to understand Hastings Creamery. Now, this wasn't just a supplier. This was a partner Polka Dot had worked with since day one, all the way back in 1956. Their identities were completely tangled up together.
And then the floor just dropped out. Things went from bad to worse, and fast. Reports about wastewater violations started popping up mid-year, and by September, that was it. Regulators shut the creamery down. For good. Just like that, a 67-year partnership was over, and Polka Dot's signature product was gone. So in that moment of absolute chaos, what did they do? This quote from Joe Pettit says it all. They didn't quit. Their first thought wasn't even about their own future. It was making sure their customers felt zero interruption. They scrambled, found new suppliers, and just kept those trucks rolling. But as it turned out, fixing the supply chain was only half the battle.
Because this created an even bigger problem. See, an operational crisis can morph into a narrative crisis, and that's when the story people are telling about your business becomes way more dangerous than the problem you're actually trying to solve.
And you've got to give co-owner Joe Pettit credit here. He's incredibly honest about this part. He flat out admits they botched the storytelling. Their message, which was, hey, we're stopping fluid dairy distribution, was heard by a whole lot of people as Polka Dot is going out of business. And in a small service area, that kind of rumor travels at the speed of light and has very real consequences.
And you can just imagine the panic, right? If you're a store owner and you hear your key distributor might be unstable, what do? You start looking for a backup just in case.
And what about their other suppliers? Well, suddenly they're getting a little nervous about extending credit. The risk starts to ripple through their entire business network.
And forget about hiring people. Potential employees are asking around, hey, is this company even stable? All of a sudden, this false story was threatening to become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Okay, so they had to fight back. They had to change the entire conversation. This was the turning point. The moment the company realized the real headline of their business was never just about the product. It was about how they delivered it.
So here's the pivot. They made a crucial decision. The name Polka Dot Dairy would stay, but what it meant had to evolve. It was no longer about a specific product from a specific creamery. From now on, it was about a family's deep commitment to service and relationships. The very things that had kept them going for over 60 years. What they realized was that their most valuable asset, the thing that was most durable, wasn't what was in the back of the truck. It was the trust they had built, one delivery at a time, for decades. That was the brand equity they were going to build their future on.
But look, a news story is just words, right? It's meaningless without proof. So this wasn't some fluffy marketing campaign. They backed up their new identity with some really smart, disciplined, practical business moves that made their service promise real.
First up, they defined a super clear and disciplined service area. Instead of trying to be everywhere for everyone, they decided to focus on a dense 75 to 100-mile radius around their home base. Now you might think they're shrinking, but no. This was not a retreat. It was a strategic move to absolutely own their home turf.
So why does that matter? Well, think about it. A tighter radius means way better service. It means you're on time more often, communication is cleaner, you have fewer missed stops, and it gives your drivers more time to provide that amazing hands-on in-store support that really sets them apart. It's the operational proof behind their promise of outstanding service.
Okay, next up, the product mix. They started to evolve what they were carrying, leaning into their strengths in refrigerated and frozen delivery. So they're balancing those legacy brands that their customers already know and love with new, exciting, high-margin products like jerky, snacks, and frozen pizza.
And I love this because it totally captures their new mindset. Instead of being just another generic distributor, they're aiming to own specific categories. This idea of becoming the jerky guys, it's not just a fun slogan, it's a real strategy. It's memorable, it's focused, and it gives a retailer a crystal clear reason to choose them over anybody else. So as we start to wrap this whole story up, it becomes really clear this isn't about Polka Dot Dairy trying to become something completely new. It's about them refocusing on the core principles that made them successful in the first place and just applying them to a new reality.
And their vision for the future, it really boils down to these core pillars. It's about evolving, not just disappearing. It's about being disciplined, distinctive, and transparent. And when you look at it all together, this isn't just some random list of tactics. It's a clear, confident, and most importantly, realistic plan for a much stronger future.
And that really leaves us with one final thought, one big question for you to chew on. Polka Dot Dairy was forced to ask what their business was really about when the product they were literally named for vanished. It turned out the headline wasn't milk, it was service. So the question to take away from all this is, what's the real, durable headline of your business beyond just the thing you happen to sell?